G'day everybody, I'm Scott Poynton and welcome to another podcast. And today I have the pleasure of talking to Geeta Stillwell. And Geeta is in Portugal, and I know Geeta because she was one of my 3 trainers on my forest therapy training program that I did with the Association of Nature and Forest Therapy from September in 2020 all the way through to end of March 2021. And it was a fantastic experience, made more fantastic by the way that Geeta and Vix and Liz, the other 2 trainers, but particularly for me, Geeta, helped me through that process and brought to me this magnificent experience of being a forest therapy guide. So hello, Geeta, and welcome to our podcast.
Hi, Scott. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with you, and thank you for your kind words.
Yeah, no, look, it was a great experience to go through the to learn how to become a guide for forest therapy, and we'll come to that in a minute. But just really interested in you, Geeta, and the story of your life. I know a little bit about it, not much, I think, but it was funny. We did the forest therapy guide training all via Zoom. We had these wonderful people dialing in every couple of weeks from around Europe, and haven't met one of them, but feel like I know them very deeply and great friends. And so we did learn a lot about each other, including you and Vix and Liz, the other 2 trainers. But yeah, just if you could tell us a bit about your story and who you are and how you came to be a forest therapy guide trainer.
So I was born in Portugal from English, Irish, German ancestry, but born and raised here. So Portuguese soul. I grew up in nature, spent a lot of time in nature. And at some point in my life, that kind of disappeared and I became a more urban person. I went on to study pharmacy. So I'm actually a trained pharmacist. And then went into the world of business and did a master's in business and worked in the pharmaceutical industry for many years. And at one point I thought, this is not what I want to do with my life. This is not thinking that each individual soul can have a contribution to the evolution of human consciousness. I thought, this is not where I want my energy to go.
How did that manifest itself, Geeta? I'm fascinated by this because I talk to a lot of people and they just start feeling like something's wrong and they often can't put their finger on it and say, I just knew, or they know, but they don't know why they know. How did it manifest itself for you, this feeling?
So I remember the specific moment where that decision happened in my soul. I was actually at the office, walking the corridor, and my body stopped, and it was like, no, this is not for me. And I actually felt it in my belly. It was a very strong feeling in my belly. So from that moment, I said, okay, I'm gonna save money to not work for a year and just redirect my life. And that's what I did. And I went to India for a whole year to travel because I'd never really, I'd traveled to many countries, but normally like business trips. I'd never given myself the time to explore a new culture. So I went and that was completely life-changing for me to be in India for a whole year. And from there, I was with a friend and we brought back some stuff to sell just to pay off the travel. And from there, I built a business with making clothes with secondhand saris. One of the things that really struck me when I was in India was that, and if you've ever been in India, maybe you've noticed this, it's very clear the feminine energy and the masculine energy. Women are very feminine. And I fell in love with the sari. Right?
Very beautiful. Yeah.
And when I I was in 2003, lots of women still wore saris. So you could see that a lot. So I had this like inner game inside myself where I wanted to bring the energy of that woman that wore that sari for a Western woman.
Mm-hmm.
And so, that's what I did. I built a business called India That Wears You. And that went on for about 8 years to a point where I was like, this is like becoming it's becoming very big. Right. Normally people, when something is growing, they keep growing. And it's like, my soul's not in this anymore. I'm
Yeah.
just like another retail store, and I don't want to do that. So again, I just left that and started again, So, and at that point, I remember it was the Klima Forum was happening in Denmark at the time. And I said, okay, I'm just going to go.
Mm-hmm.
Everywhere. I haven't had a TV like in 20 years. And I totally rely that the universe is going to give me the news that I need to know. And so I'd walk into restaurants and I'd see all these news about the Klima Forum and the Klima Forum. And I said, okay, maybe this is something. So I got on a plane and went and was there for 15 days and attended lots of talks and really, understood that there was this whole grassroots movement happening about, climate change and how it was affecting so many different countries. So it kind of like woke me up to doing something with a little bit more significance in my life.
Right.
And from there, I went on to work with like an underground psychedelic culture sustainability, very big festival.
Mm-hmm.
Work in their production team. And I did that for about 8 years. And there I was completely immersed in nature.
Geeta, you've done so many interesting things.
Yeah, I've done lots of things, yeah. And it was absolutely amazing. I just knew that was what I was needing to do at that time.
This got you back to nature.
Yeah. And this got me totally back to nature. And I discovered forest therapy one evening, just researching, because I started guiding walks with an astrologer friend of mine, full moon walks, and bringing in some embodiment work. So throughout all this time, I worked with an Australian teacher, Navanita. She left the body this year in April. But she was my teacher and mentor throughout 20 years, working with the body and awareness of the body through movement, meditation, which was really like my, how do you call it? Like an arrow, right? That I kept, that
like
was my
thread, a central thread that ran through your life.
Exactly, that ran through my whole life. And that kept me centered and kept me sane. And always, I think I've been very faithful to what feels alive in my heart and what feels good.
You followed that.
Yeah. And I think I'm very privileged to be able to make those choices. It takes courage, I think, when you're not happy with something, to let it go and start off again. And
that was the word that came to my mind as you were telling your stories. It's courage. It's courageous. And so many people sort of get stuck because, well, they need the money. They've got commitments that they need to honor. And even though they turn up to work every day feeling miserable, well, they leave in the evening but they spend so many hours of their day in misery, it seems. And we have such a short life, and spending, a big chunk of it feeling pretty unhappy with how you're living seems terrible to me. Yeah.
Yeah. So I can say that I sleep at night very easily every night, because I've always, whenever it starts feeling uncomfortable for me, I can't. It's just something, it becomes restless inside, and I just make that decision. So I discovered one night I was looking for a structure to the work that I was doing of taking people outside. I wanted to get a certification because I wanted to build it. Kind of like when I started guiding those walks, it's like, yeah, this is what I want to do. I want to be more immersed in nature. I want to support people to reconnect to nature. And I discovered the word Shinrin-yoku, which I'd never heard of before. It's like, wow, this whole new world opened up for me on the internet one night. And, surfing the net, I found the Association of Nature and Forest Therapy guides and programs, and discovered that they were facilitating the first guide training in Europe.
The first ever
guide training in Europe in, let's say, May 2016. And this was December. And I didn't have so much money at the time, but I'd been living in my van for about 4 years. And I just moved into a little apartment. And the money for the training was the money that I could sell my van for. So I just applied immediately that day. My mom lent me the money for the deposit.
Yep.
And I put my van on sale, sold my van, did the training, and it was absolutely life-changing. I remember that first walk on that training, just thinking this is the simplest, most profound, and most effective way to support people to slow down.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a hard worker. Like I work a lot. I have a lot of energy, and at the time I was working with this festival, and just working really crazy hours, and working through the training, answering emails on breaks and stuff. And it completely changed my life, this practice. And I'd done a lot of things from, the whole spectrum, from Reiki to bioenergetic breath work and plant medicine. So like really intense stuff.
Mm.
And I found in this practice, in the simplicity of it, I could feel there was a lot of ground to it. There was a lot of experience to it. And so, I completed my training, started guiding walks. And then my time with this festival came to an end. I was burnt out completely. I had a severe burnout that, kind of like manifested with my brain very tired. My front brain just wouldn't compute anymore.
Just stopped.
Scared me, yeah. And also my spine, like I had a cervical hernia, and my arm was paralyzed, and I had to be like, for a whole month I had to lay down and wear a collar, and because the doctor said, you might need surgery, and I said, there's no way, I don't want surgery. And I just rested for a month, went on forest therapy walks, and recovered my, that tiredness of my brain. And, with the support of a very good yoga teacher, I recovered my spine, and fortunately didn't need surgery. And I said, no, I need to change. So again, like I stopped, and I didn't have so much money because, this festival didn't pay so much. And I said, okay, I'm going to take out a loan, and I'm going to build my company, and I'm going to invest in my trainer's path.
Right.
So, and that's what I did. Basically, I invested in, traveling to be an assistant and then an apprentice in many different trainings until I was invited to be a trainer with the ANFT. And, just this path of bringing together all this work that I'd done with Navanita, with the embodiment, and bring that quality into my training style, and just what I can offer. And it's just been where I am now. I just feel I'm completely in the right place, doing what I'm here to do. And it was before the pandemic, I was invited by the festival that I worked with to come and facilitate a forest therapy walk, which was kind of a very beautiful way of completing the circle.
Right.
Leaving that festival was probably the hardest thing I had to do in my life, because my soul and my heart were so much there, but my body couldn't take it anymore.
Right.
It was very difficult to leave, but it was the best decision that I did. And so to be invited back and offer a forest therapy experience to the team was just like a very beautiful way of closing. And my very good friend, and also one of the owners of the festival, at the end, he sent me a very sweet message, and he said, "It's very good to see you in your ikigai,"
right?
Which is that Japanese expression for your life purpose, right? Yeah. When you're doing what's good for you, what's good for the world, and what you can live from. And I just really feel I'm in my ikigai.
I reckon you are too. I get a strong feeling, and I had that feeling, I think, when we first met back in September last year with the training. And, I just had this strong sense that I was dealing with someone who knew exactly where they were loving what they were doing, and it just came across, Geeta. And I think that, I certainly know it helped me, but I believe it helped all the other participants in the training too. And here we are now talking over Zoom, but somehow that energy just radiates out, and you feel it. You feel that strong presence of I don't know what it is. It's the word just popped into my mind was contentedness. There's some just you're happy with where you are and what you're doing, and it feels right. And this is an important thing, and this is why I was interested to talk to you here, because I talk to a lot of people where I talk a lot about resonance and dissonance, heading towards the resonance, as opposed to, you're feeling dissonance. And a lot of people feel dissonance in their life every day. And I believe that's where we get to burnout sometimes. We can get to burnout through resonance too. And I had my own burnout. And I think my burnout came because my job was absolutely everything I wanted to be doing. I was in the perfect place in terms of what I was doing, but it required so much of my body in terms of flying around the world and doing all stressful meetings and all sorts of stuff, that my body just in the end said, can't do it anymore. And, I had my own health issues. So sometimes we can get health issues from resonance too, if we're not careful, if we don't pay attention to what our body's telling us. But so many people I find are stuck in this terrible place of dissonance, and you look at them and you sort of want to give them a hug and you don't have to be there. And so I often invite people to think about their feelings. So I think a lot of people spend a lot of time in their heads, and they think about everything, and I was talking to a friend the other day, and she was telling me how she felt about going to work every day and how awful it was. And I said, she said, well, what do you think? I said, well, geez, it doesn't sound like you're in the right place. She said, oh, no, but I think I can change the system from inside. And I said, do you see what you just did? It took her quite some time. It was on text and you went back through the messages. And I said, you just basically threw your feelings under a bus because you think you can change the system. And that all your feelings in your body are telling you no. And so often we do that, right? And I got this feeling from you when we first met, was that you follow your feelings, you follow the resonance. And I think there's a gift in that. There's a lesson in that for lots of other people. And you've just made it really a great story about how you've done that all your life, and not without risk, not without worries and concerns, but here you are. So maybe you could just quickly tell us about forest therapy. You mentioned Shinrin-yoku. Just give us the quick intro to forest therapy so that our listeners can understand what it's about.
Yeah, so forest therapy, the premise of our work and the way we work is that the forest is the therapist and the guide simply opens the doors. And basically what we do is just, in my understanding of it, we are in service of the forest and of these people. And basically through our own connection and relationship to the forest, we just create a space for that connection and that relationship to unfold for the participants in whatever way it needs to unfold. So in itself, it's a very simple practice. We work with the 5 senses of the body, and then maybe a little bit of the imaginal sense and, heart sense, and, bringing in that relationship. It's a 2.5 hour to 3 hour experience where we guide participants through a series of invitations that are built in a certain way to build a certain journey or experience for the participants. There's lots of health benefits that are being, investigated and have been researched. So being in nature is good for us, full stop. Doesn't surprise me if we think that, as a species, we've evolved in nature for millions of years. So we're completely hardwired for nature. We feel a lot more, even though we don't think that. And it might be like a bit of a cognitive dissonance when you get a lot of urbanized people in the forest. They're like, ants, mud, what am I going to do with this?
Exactly.
But then, after a few breaths and after, a stroll down the path, there's a familiarity that is, I think, is very much from our reptilian brain that arrives.
It's like they're coming home.
Yeah, it's like a coming home. So the practice in itself is not rocket science, like I say. I say that all the time in the trainings. For me, being a forest therapy guide is about it's a surrender to something that is the mystery of life, we can say, and that intelligence that we also have, but we've kind of like disconnected from, and it's coming back into that frequency that is the frequency of nature, knowing that we are also nature. So, it's like Navanita used to say, she had a very good metaphor for that, which was it's like we're a radio and we're out of whack.
Yeah.
There's a lot of static energy,
That makes
and
sense.
coming back to nature allows you to retune yourself to your actual frequency, and it gives the quietness, I think, and the spaciousness for us to hear those voices, for us to hear those feelings you were talking about, Scott, that normally we don't.
The noise.
When we're in this busy, world of the realm of the top floor of our house, like when we're always on the
upstairs.
And when we're always upstairs, which is great. I mean,
we need our brains, right?
We need it.
Yeah, we've got to have that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that, in a nutshell, that's what forest therapy is. And what I've seen, I don't know, I've lost count of how many walks I've guided, but there's a common denominator that I always see in participants. And that's that they really slow down. They're walking in a much slower pace at the end of the walk than they are at the beginning. So there's something that happens there in their rhythm, like in their inner rhythm. And also that people realize at the end of a walk how much they needed to be in nature.
Yeah. I'm only just getting started, but that's a common theme that comes when we have the ceremony at the end, the tea at the end. People go, I didn't realize how much I needed this. It's a very common thing that people say, isn't it?
Yeah. And just that is enough for me. Just that is enough. Not that, we're one of the very important things of the work of a forest therapy guide, like I was saying, is this surrender and just allowing whatever needs to unfold. And so we don't have an agenda. We don't have, I'm going to take these people out and I'm going to help them relax. We don't think that. Just
you're going to open the door to the forest for them.
Yeah. And I often say to guides, just take that walk for yourself. Just enjoy it for yourself. That's the best way you can guide a walk, is through your own experience of it.
Right.
The forest does the rest, right? And what I find in this path of being a forest therapy guide, guiding all kinds of different people, and also as a trainer, is it's a path of humility and a surrender to this mystery of life, I think.
I think you've nailed it. Yeah, it really is. And
it's about, just I'm just being reminded this. I was raised as a Catholic, and I'm not a practicing Catholic, but there's this very beautiful prayer from Saint Francis of Assisi that says, "Let me be an instrument of your, whatever you want." I can't remember it, but it's this feeling of just being available for whatever is needed. Yeah. And I think another very important ingredient in my life has been this work with Navanita. And she's Australian. She's from the bush. Very loud, she's now left. But she would always, a lot of humor. And she would always say, "Get real. Is that what you're really feeling? Is that true?"
Yeah.
So when people, you were talking about people thinking, just have their thinking minds overriding their feelings.
Yeah.
So, it's like, what are you really feeling?
I know. Get to that, touch that, find that.
Yeah, just like, get real, It's like, if you're angry, be angry, express anger. And we're so conditioned that we have to be polite citizens and, be smiley and be nice. And for me, also meeting this American culture, because nature and forest therapy is based out of the US. And I've learned so much about, for example, the art of questioning and not assuming things. I'm European, right? So we're a lot more linear and to the point and, just, and I also have some Latin influence. So I'm also very expressive. So it's a bit of a mix. But it's like, really? Are you really feeling that? Sometimes it's frustrating for me, with all this, I'm curious about this. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I just want to tell you that I'm really angry right now. And I don't want to do this.
Spit it out. Yeah.
It's just being real. And what I've found for myself, and, it's an ongoing journey and work every moment.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I think it needs a decision and a commitment to be real.
To show
you
up as
know?
you, right?
Yeah, and then sometimes you don't, and it's frustrating, and it's like, ugh. And then you have to go back, and it's like, oh, I didn't really feel that thing that I said.
Yeah.
That wasn't really true.
It's so funny. I say to people, you don't always get it right. We can strive to live in this way, but we're human too, right? Everyone's human, and sometimes you get to the end of the day and you're like, why did I do that? Why did I say that? I knew it was wrong at the time, but I just did it. And I think the magic comes when you can see it in the moment and you can head yourself off. You can say, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to speak truly to who I am and what I'm feeling. And I think it supports the other people because that invites them to do the same. And you can have far more meaningful, not just conversations, but I think relationships with people when you're just being you and finding that connection with another from that gut. You're talking gut to gut as opposed to intelligent server upstairs brain thing to the other one where all sorts of other stuff can get in the way.
Very tiring.
It's hard work.
Upstairs.
It's hard work, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's one of the things. It's very freeing when you can be real, right? And it takes work and it doesn't happen all the time.
The other thing that comes across to me, Geeta, as you were talking is this idea of forest therapy. The idea of therapy can get in the way for some people because people see a therapist when they've got a problem and it's like, oh, well, I don't have a problem. Well, we're not telling you that you do, mate, but we're just saying, you might like to spend a bit of time in the forest. But nonetheless, this word therapy can get in the way. But I think my very starting experience with the forest therapy thing, guiding, as you say, is that it is just so simple. Whereas a lot of these other things and yoga is reasonably simple too, but I think a lot of these things carry a mystique about them that scares people from engaging. Yoga or embodiment and things like that. And some people go, oh, I'm going to that. That sounds great. But so many of us, and I would say by far the vast majority of humans, like, oh, no, that's a bit weird. I'm not going there. And it seems such a shame, number one. But number two, is my experience is the forest therapy, the simplicity of the forest therapy. Once people experience it, they go out and start saying, I need to do that again. Or, hey, Mary, hey, Nigel, hey, Bruce, you need to come and do this too because it really is so simple and it'll be good for you. Do you find that in the relationships that you're forging with the people who come on the walks with you?
Yeah, definitely. When I speak about what I do to people or, in the marketing, I always use different terms. I use forest therapy, I use forest bathing, I use Shinrin-yoku, and I explain, that it's not a therapy session, that I'm not a therapist. So, to get that out of the way, get
pretty
that
quickly,
initial hurdle out of the way.
Yeah.
What I'm noticing, I'm working increasingly more with corporate teams and environments. And I'm in this point in my guiding, which is very interesting. Because up to now, I've guided people that have come to a walk from their own volition. They found,
the website
or whatever, and they come on a walk because there's something that they're interested in. And I'm now guiding more and more people that come because their boss tells them they have to come. Because it's like a team event.
Right. How's that unfolding?
It's very interesting because there's a lot more resistances that people bring, a lot more mistrust.
How does that manifest itself, Geeta? Do you see them standing there with their arms crossed or, what do they do?
Yes. So
they don't want to share or,
all the traditional body positions, that body language that show there's a little bit of discomfort. And especially in the sharings, part of the forest therapy walk experience is to create opportunities for people to express in whatever way feels good to them.
Yeah.
How that process is unfolding. And, there's a specific reason for that, which is to build also that, or to repair that cultural hiatus, really, that exists in authentic communication between people, that being real and just really expressing what is going on for you and being witnessed in that, in your relationship with nature or, whatever is unfolding for you in that moment. So in the sharings, I've really opened up the space, which has taught me a lot about deep listening, which is to just hold the space for what is, right? So I've taken away a little bit of the formality of, passing the sharing piece around one person at a time. So I'll do a lot more popcorn sharings.
Yep.
What I'm noticing is that maybe, in a group of 15, maybe 5 or 6 will share in the first share, and then that will be then 7 or 8 in the second. And, by the end, everybody shares.
Yeah.
So just also finding that spaciousness in myself to hold that.
To let that happen.
And
not be worried about the silence. Yeah.
Yeah. And, people will, a lot of times they will speak over each other, and that's okay. It's just where they are, it's what is there in that moment.
Exactly.
And to just hold space for that, or be held in that, also be held in that space. Yeah, Navanita also, she used to teach something which I found really interesting, because we often hear holding space, that guides hold space, or that facilitators hold space. And she would say, we don't hold space. Space holds us.
Right. Yeah.
So it's kind of like dropping into that presence that there's nothing you can do to change what is.
You can't force people to speak, right?
Yeah,
right, come on, you've got to speak now. It's your turn.
Yeah.
Start yelling at them.
Yeah. So, and then, very beautiful insights that people have, and very beautiful experiences. There's always lots of childhood memories that come up, sometimes grief, that people kind of like remember the simplicity of life. And like you were saying, there's so many people that are getting up to go to work every day, and they're really unhappy with what they're doing. And, and this extends, beyond the work environment, because it affects your social life, it affects your family life.
Everything.
Sometimes people are stuck in relationships, and it's just more comfortable to be there, even though they're unhappy, than, maybe making decisions
Being
and taking
alone.
steps.
Yeah.
I don't think we're taught, or we are given the tools in our culture to work with our shadow, and to, go to those places that are uncomfortable, that are painful, and that are, so we keep, kind of like coating ourselves with this persona and this way of living, or doing lots of things to just fill in this void, right? Because it's a void.
It's a void, yeah.
Yeah.
And to get through, right? Just to get through. Get to the end of the day when you can go to bed and lie down and go to sleep, and find escape there, perhaps. And obviously not everyone does, because people have trouble sleeping too, and everything just, the void gets filled up with troubles in a way, doesn't it?
Yeah. So, again, the word that comes for me is courage. It takes, also will, that you want to go to those places. And I've been very fortunate having many different teachers and mentors throughout my life that have supported me on those journeys. Also, working with some plant medicines has really helped, to go to those places of my soul that I didn't know how to go. And forest therapy has been, I think, my greatest teacher so far.
So simple. Yeah. Isn't that amazing? Yeah. Good on you. So you've got years ahead of you, Geeta, doing this work. And now, as you say, you're moving into a different group of clients and stuff like that. What are your hopes for the future? What's the aspirations? I mean, you mentioned also, you've started all those years ago with, looking at climate change and things like this. How does it all look? I mean, I get a strong impression you live very much in the moment. So thinking too much about what's coming in the future may not be something that you do a lot of. But where do you think your life is going, and what does it involve, do you think, in some years' time?
So I have a dream of finding a place like more in nature, like in a more wild place, and to just support biodiversity and plant native trees, and just bring back a little bit of the original plant species and animal species of this land.
Some healing work.
Yeah. Portugal we have a very big problem with eucalyptus trees.
Yeah.
a
all
lot.
the way from Australia, I must say.
All the way, all the way from Australia.
It does break my heart
And
when I see that. They're planted everywhere, Africa, Asia as well, and they really aren't right for a lot of the environments where they're planted. Yeah.
yeah, and one of the biggest paper companies in the world is based here, and it's a Portuguese company. So there's been a lot of override of natural species with eucalyptus, which brings lots of problems with biodiversity, fires, etc. So I'd like to convert some piece of land to support that biodiversity to come through, and really like build a place. Doesn't need to be a very fancy place where people can just come to rest.
Yeah.
And just be
there.
Just be there, just be in nature, nothing fancy, just
Right.
have a place where they can have good food, and just be. Just a place for being. No dogmas, no teachings. Who am I to teach anything? It's just like, just enjoy, right?
Yeah.
It's just a place where people can
Just
breathe out,
just breathe
and
out.
just
Yeah.
retune, find that rhythm, find that
that frequency you talked about.
Yeah, that frequency.
Mm.
Just reconnect with that frequency. So that's kind of like my dream, and I'm working towards that.
I don't doubt you are. Like all your dreams, you've headed in that direction.
I've recently started with Manuela. She's in Costa Rica, a colleague and a very good friend. We started Wellbeing Inspired by Nature. So we're training consultants. We want to build a network of Wellbeing Inspired by Nature consultants all over the world. So forest therapy guides or anyone who works with nature connection practices, or even, not, that want to bring a different set of skills of bringing corporate teams into this reconnection with nature. Because a very important aspect, I think, of this work, forest therapy and other nature connection practices, is this reconnection or this reestablishing of a relationship to other beings that we share this place with.
Yeah.
I think something really went wrong for us humans, that we put ourselves in this very anthropocenic top of the pyramid, and we completely separated ourselves from nature, using nature as a resource for our survival, and completely disconnecting from this mystery of life. And I think a very fundamental part of this work is to just remember who we are.
Yeah. Yep.
Remember, what does it mean to be a human?
Right.
How can we live, in relationship with all these other beings?
Yep.
And not, that these beings are there
just
to serve us.
Yeah.
Right.
Indeed.
So just bringing in, I think, that awareness is where I want to go. So that's where, I love traveling, but I honestly, traveling for work is something that it was very tiring. These years before the pandemic, I was traveling a lot.
Yes.
And it was kind of like, no, I want to, I like to have my stability at home.
Yep.
So build a place where people can come, where people can be.
It sounds like a beautiful thing to me. I'm coming,
Yeah.
Geeta.
Yes, please.
I'm going to come and see you there. It sounds great. But look, what you're saying resonates very deeply with me, because my experience, the work that I was doing many years, was trying to help companies not destroy the environment and not destroy people's lives as well. It wasn't just about the environment. And I found that this concern for, profit and loss, quarterly results, budgets, work plans, all of those things which live in the head, and they were so focused on those, KPIs, all sorts of things. They lost that connection with the consequences of what they were doing. And so often it took the NGOs who were more connected to what was going on in nature to say, look what you guys are doing. You're destroying all the forest. You're killing orangutans, etc. You're destroying the Amazon rainforest, etc. and so forth. Oh, and by the way, you're messing up Indigenous communities' lives and pumping chemicals into rivers. And how do you feel about that? Like, you shouldn't be doing that. And it's almost like it was a revelation for the companies. Like, what do you mean? We're creating jobs, we're creating wealth. Like, yeah, that's great. And we know that things like the palm oil industry has been an economic miracle, and it's lifted millions of people out of poverty. This is a terrific thing. But at what cost? And what the impression was that, these business people were inherently evil. They set out to cause this trouble. And my experience was quite different. I don't think they set out to do it. I don't think they felt it. They didn't see it. Let's go. They didn't feel it. And so the NGOs are able to say, hold a mirror up and say, this is what you guys are doing. This is what's happening as a result of your business. Their first reaction was always denial and negative and fighting back. But when the NGOs kept coming, then my role was to go in there and talk with the companies and say, there is some merit in what these guys are saying. You guys are fighting back and all the rest of it, but you can run your business without doing all that destruction. Do you think so? And of course, they always wanted to. It wasn't that they went out every day and said, how many orangutans can we kill today?
Exactly.
It's just never entered their mind. And so this nature connection that you speak about, I think, is so fundamental, because if you love something and if you have a deep relationship with something, you can't hurt it, right? You can't drive a bulldozer through something that you love. And I think, I don't know that, some of the CEOs and people that I worked with, I ever got them to that place of deep love for the forest, but I think they got to the point of respecting the fact that it needed to be there, and what they were doing in chopping it down wasn't right. And so I think the work that you're going down there, that path you're going down there with Manuela, is hugely important, and it really resonates with what I'm trying to do as well. And I wouldn't say that was one of the reasons why I started the forest therapy. I started the forest therapy because it just felt right. It was a connection. And I had a similar thing to you. Someone told me about it. I'm like, what's that? And looked up on the internet and I'm like, right, I'm signing up. And it was, honestly, I feel it's been one of the most wonderful times of my life, the training and now taking people on walks, just getting started. So I've got a lot of experiences ahead. But look, I want to thank you, Geeta, for talking with us today. I think I could probably talk to you for the next 6 hours, to be honest with you. I'm coming to Portugal and we're going to have a cup of tea and have a chat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm not coming to Portugal. Geeta's got this wonderful immersion coming up and I'm unfortunately not able to go, but I will get there because I think there's much resonance in what you're doing. And I was really excited to talk to you because I felt that great connection and presence in you that I feel that it'd be great for people just to hear your voice. I think people feel that energy coming, and I hope that our listeners on the podcast will get that sense too, that what you're doing is something it's pretty important. And so I want to thank you for it, Geeta. Good on you.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you so much for having me, and it was lovely to chat with you, and you're very welcome to come any time. Portugal is a beautiful country. And yeah, I'm just always, just just one more thing I want to add to what you were saying. I'm always reminded from Jacques Cousteau, that famous French diver. And he used to say, you will only protect what you love.
That's right.
So that work and the word love, the word love is a word that I think sometimes in the corporate environment, it's a bit like, we don't go there.
That's right.
What's
love,
that?
Soul.
How do I deal with that?
Yeah. And let's not talk about soul, right?
Oh, no.
You couldn't possibly talk about that.
No. That's
the S word.
That's a very dangerous realm to dive into.
Yeah. And it's a shame. How did that happen? How did we get to that place, Geeta?
I think it's what you were saying. No, it's just this, I don't know. It's this place where the thinking mind, it's the budgets and the results and the productivity. I think it's maybe coming from this fear of scarcity. We've had some pretty intense wars on this planet, World War I, World War II, and that's kind of like driven this building of the economy, whatever that is.
Right.
I mean, I know what it is, but I'm being sarcastic. Yeah. So love, I would say.
Yeah, I'm there with you, and it's so. Here we go again. As I said, we could talk for hours, but it's interesting. I work with a lot of CEOs and have done in the past over many years, and they are some of the most intelligent people that I think I've ever met in my life. And you go into a room and, they're the most intelligent person in the room. And sometimes I feel that this can get in the way. It's almost like they've got this magnificent vehicle, it's like a magnificent shiny black Mercedes, and they need to take it out for a drive because it's no good if it's in the garage, right? And no one sees it. They got to take it out for a drive. And so you go into a situation with them, and I'm sitting there, and I would like to hope that I'm leading from my gut and that place. And so they ask you something. what do you think about this? And I say, well, I feel, and then you tell them, and then they want to get into an argument with you because they've got to win, right?
Yeah.
They've got to take out the Mercedes out for a drive, and they've got to win the argument, and their way must be the way. And I find myself increasingly smiling when this happens, and you just want to say to people, it's okay. We don't have to do that. I know you've got a nice shiny black Mercedes in the garage, but how do you feel about that? How do you feel about having that? And what else might you do if you came at this from a different direction, instead of leading with your mind? What's going on inside you? Like, what do you mean inside me? What's that about? And I've had people. I did a presentation a couple of years ago, and a CEO amazingly came for about 2.5 hours, and all the team said he's never been more than 10 minutes in one of our meetings. And at the end of this thing where I talked about connection, getting connected to yourself so that you can make decisions based on your inner wisdom, it was fantastic. And we went around and lots of people talked about it. And at the end, he looked at me, said, look, and he was frustrated. He said, but how do you get connected to yourself? How do you do that? And I'm like, well, you might try a walk in nature. We live in Australia. This was in Melbourne. I said, look, there's a lot of forests and things around here. You might want to start with going for a walk. He's like, right. It's almost like he needed a work plan and a budget, And we've said it before, you just want to give those people a bit of a hug and say, look, it's all right. Like, just come here, buddy, and look, we'll just go for a walk and go and sit under a tree. And we'll do it in the darkness so no one sees you. There's a lot of ego and pride in there too, isn't there? Right? And this comes back to the work of forest therapy, doesn't it? You just like you can be yourself here.
Yeah.
You can be yourself, and no one's going to judge you. Nature doesn't judge you, and
exactly.
Helping people cross that initial bridge, and once they do, it's like, right, I'm going to do more of that because that felt pretty good.
Yeah.
And then I think we start seeing some of the decisions these corporate leaders take, and corporate teams start to take, become very different. And oriented with a much broader, looking, instead of how much money can we make from this? It's like, well, yeah, we can make some money, but if we do it this way, we'll support that community, or we'll make sure that that forest is okay, or the ocean is okay, and they bring in nature into their equations. So I think you're doing nature's work, Geeta, and
I think we both are, Scott.
Yeah, well, good on you. Well, this is why.
We all are.
I think we all are. We're trying to, aren't we? And I think that we just got to keep going. And there's room for despair in all of this work too. We could probably talk about that for a while, but we probably best finish up. We talk about it another time. There's times when you see things and you read about climate change. It's like, all the work has counted for nothing. But nonetheless, I think we've just got to keep going and keep trying to inspire people, right?
Yeah, I have faith in humanity. I really do.
I do too. I
really do.
I think that's a great place to finish up. Thank you, Geeta.
Thank you so much, Scott.